Put that down. I didn't come here to kill good people. I'm only after what's rightfully mine.
Yo, do it now, man, then.
Why don't you step inside the house, grab the rest, and we'll leave feeling totally satisfied. As soon as we have the other half safe and secure, they'll kill them all.
Got that.
We begin the movie with our protagonist. Joe is a family man and an honest worker who runs a lumber business in a remote Canadian town. After an intense workday, Joe suggests to his partner that he stay in town. A storm is approaching that will last a long time. They will take the cargo tomorrow morning. Weston informs him that he cannot stay. He has important matters to attend to. When he returns home, his wife Stephanie and his daughter Charlotte greet him with hugs. As he heads to the garage, he finds his father looking for the Christmas lights. It turns out that Lyndon suffers from cognitive difficulties due to a brain injury, which keeps his family worried, since his signs of dementia are severe. A couple of hours later, Lyndon leaves the house without telling the family. Joe notices his absence and sets out to look for him all over the house. He receives a call, and when he answers, they inform him that his father is at the town tavern. Apparently, this is not the first time something like this has happened. At that moment, Lyndon mistakes a woman for his late wife. Several men approach to take him out, and Lyndon reacts with hostility. Just when he was being beaten by two men, Joe appears to control the situation. In the attempt, he is injured with a glass jug just like his father, but thanks to his skills, he manages to knock out the three men, lifts his father, and the sheriff appears when everything is over. After taking him to the emergency room, the sheriff informs him that one of the men who attacked his father is on parole for aggravated assault. He was lucky they did not press charges against him. In any case, he has to do something about his father. If it happens again, he will have to arrest them both. A few hours later, one of the doctors informs them that they stitched the wound with a couple of stitches on his head. Due to the injury, it was necessary to perform an MRI. Luckily, everything is in order. He will recover in a short time. He asks the reason for the wound, and the family tells him what happened at the tavern. He mistook a woman for his late wife. BRAVEN mentions that it was his fault. He got distracted, and his father left the house without him noticing. His wife was in her classes. They schedule their times to avoid leaving him alone. But what happened was a slip. The doctor points out that his mental condition has worsened since last year's accident. He will consult a neurologist to perform an additional scan. Joe says he does not want them to do another study, to which the doctor suggests they look for another supervision method, something like a nursing home. BRAVEN gets upset at his suggestion and leaves, saying that it is enough. Despite having lived with them for so many years, Lyndon mistakes BRAVEN's daughter, thinking she belongs to another family, something that worries our protagonist too much. He feels devastated to see that his father has forgotten his daughter. On the other hand, we see Joe's employee meeting with drug traffickers, who use some logs to hide the powders on his route. One of the criminals accompanies him to make sure the substances reach their destination. The trafficker questions him and suggests that he recruit other drivers he can trust, assuring him that he will be rewarded by his boss. To which Weston responds that he does not intend to involve anyone. The only thing he is interested in is getting paid his share. Suddenly, Weston loses control, and they end up off the road, leaving the vehicle unusable. Fearing being discovered with the substances, they decide to cut the logs and hide them in one of Joe's cabins to retrieve them later. In the early hours of the morning, Stephanie wakes up because of noises outside. She gets up to check and finds her husband chopping wood. Joe calms down and confesses that he does not want to put his father in a nursing home. He is the strongest man he has ever known. Now he suffers from dementia. He does not want his daughter to have that image of him. His wife encourages him, saying that they are a family. They will overcome it together. She suggests that he take him to the cabin. They will spend time alone between father and son. There will be the moment to talk about the subject. While staying in a hotel, Jalek calls his boss to tell him what happened with the merchandise. At that moment, Casson was talking with one of his men who made a mistake. Enraged by everything that happened, he starts beating his partner uncontrollably until leaving him unconscious, not caring that there were several witnesses watching his act of violence. The next morning, Joe suggests the idea to his father of going to the cabin, supposedly to close it for the winter. Charlotte mentions that she would like to go, to which her mother tells her that she needs help at home. She will not be able to go with them. They will go another time. When arriving at the hotel where his men are staying, Casson orders Jallet to go with one of his soldiers. He asks Weston to accompany him, and they get into a vehicle accompanied by 2 giant thugs. Meanwhile, BRAVEN and his father arrive at the cabin without realizing the substance is hidden. Not knowing how to start the subject of his dementia, Joe asks him if he remembers what happened last night at the bar. Lyndon mentions that he had an argument with some men and ended up with 11 stitches. His son tells him that he grabbed a woman by the arm and tried to take her out of the tavern. He mistook her for his mother. Lyndon interrupts him, saying that it is impossible. They must have heard wrong. Joe asks him if he remembers seeing Charlotte at the hospital. The doctor suggested that he needs supervision. His father gets angry and asks if he wants to put him in a nursing home, to which Joe replies that he does not intend to do that. What he wants is for them to make a decision together. Lyndon continues defiantly and tells him that when his father left him the mill, he did not have to do it because he was still able to work. He did not retire him. He did not even think about putting him in a nursing home. He confesses that sometimes he has memory lapses, but it was all due to a fall from 12 meters high. A few meters from reaching their destination, Weston realizes that Joe is at the cabin. He tells the traffickers, and Casson orders them to secure the road at 150 meters while he equips his soldiers. Weston tells them that it is not necessary. He will talk to Joe and they will reach an agreement. Casson orders him to shut up, and they advance with the objective of flanking the cabin. Returning to our protagonist, Joe and his father find the bags with all the substances. At that moment, Charlotte opens the door, revealing that she hid in the truck to accompany them. She left a note to her mother, so she would not worry. They quickly get into the vehicle and set out to return home, but on the way, Joe notices the strange behavior of a deer, suspecting that there is a shooter in the area. They return and arm themselves with the weapons from the cabin. Seeing the traffickers along with his partner, BRAVEN decides to go out with half the cargo. The Narcos check the bag and point the gun at him, asking him to hand over the rest. Joe replies that if they kill him, his men will burn the rest of the substances. To be able to recover it completely, they will have to leave his property and meet again in another area within an hour. He will give them the rest, and they will never see him again. The boss replies that he does not want to go to town. He mentions the names of his family and tells him that he did not come to kill humble people. All he wants is to recover what belongs to him. Weston interrupts the talk, and the trafficker shoots him in the head without any scruples. Then he asks Joe to return to the cabin to hand over the rest. They will leave without harming them. He asks one of his men to watch him closely, and this one stays outside the cabin. His father tells him that if he hands over the other half, they will kill them just like his partner. There is a sniper in the forest he could shoot. Yu asks him not to do it. He doesn't want them to be attacked with his daughter in the cabin. He will figure out a way to try to get her out without being noticed. Until then, he must wait. Using the tools from the garage, our protagonist manages to make a couple of homemade weapons. He takes his daughter out of the hiding place and asks her to stay in the garage. He makes a bow and then throws a bag, closing the door immediately. The trafficker orders his lackey to check the merchandise, and when he opens the bag, he realizes there are several stuffed animals. He looks through the door, and the lumberjack pierces his head with an arrow. Lyndon attacks the sniper, and Yu takes advantage to leave on a quad bike carrying his daughter. Casson and one of his soldiers get into their vehicle and leave Hallett unarmed, believing that BRAVEN is carrying the merchandise in the bag. The traffickers chase him with a flat tire. Gaining some distance, our protagonist leaves his daughter on a known street so she can go to the top. That way she can have signal on her phone to call her mother. After chasing him for a few minutes, Casson orders his soldier to stop the vehicle. They are moving along the same path. The lumberjack has just taken the road back to the cabin. He grabs a weapon from the trunk and tells a soldier to keep driving. He will look for a position to ambush him. He does so and manages to shoot him in the shoulder. Since the road is cut off by a cliff, he orders his lackey to approach and neutralize him. The trafficker gets closer but only finds the backpack next to the quad bike. When he checks the bag, he realizes it is empty. He tries to inform his boss, but the lumberjack surprises him. They fight over the weapon and pull the trigger. He grabs the towing cable and wraps his enemy, giving him no chance to react. He starts the quad bike and accelerates, dragging him through the snow to try to throw him over a cliff. In a desperate attempt to avoid the fall, the trafficker grabs him and they both fall off the cliff. Unfortunately for the trafficker, he lands on some rocks, unlike Yu, who falls into the freezing water. Meanwhile, the little girl manages to reach the top to call her mother, who is heading to the cabin in despair, since she had found the note left on the refrigerator. She informs her of the situation and asks her to go to the Blue Mountain Lookout. Without wasting time, she calls the sheriff and notifies him of the situation. Her daughter called her and said there were men shooting. Back with our protagonist, BRAVEN manages to swim to the shore and removes his wet clothes to avoid hypothermia. While dressing in the clothes of the dead trafficker, the boss checks the bag, finding a toy of the little girl, so he assumes she was in the cabin. He distracted them so his daughter could call for help. He orders his men to check the mountain and to look for the girl. He then follows the trail of the quad bike, finding the body of a soldier. He decides to go down to check the area, and at the last moment, he sees his victim climbing the cliff. He contacts Clay and informs him that Yu is heading to his position. He orders him to go east along the trail and follow him. Yu manages to reach the trafficker's vehicle and hears them talking on the radio. He slashes the tire with a knife and takes another path. Meanwhile, in a cabin, Lyndon begins to suffer headaches, something Hallett takes advantage of to get close to the body of one of the traffickers. He grabs the weapon and tries to enter the cabin stealthily, but Lyndon manages to hear his steps on the snow. He attacks him with a rifle and the trafficker responds, shooting wildly. Lyndon throws himself to the ground and grabs some iron needle sticks to surprise the narco. He kills him and takes the rifle to return to his hiding spot. After a few minutes walking, Yu notices Clay searching the area. He throws his knife in a visible spot and uses the jacket to climb the tree. When the trafficker approaches to grab the knife, BRAVEN jumps from the tree to surprise him, takes his weapon and hits him several times. But just at that moment, Casson appears shooting, which forces Yu to run away, leaving his victim behind. While Lyndon was reloading the weapon, the shooter fires, grazing his head, leaving him temporarily stunned. At that moment, Yu manages to enter the cabin by throwing himself through one of the windows. The traffickers start shooting at them and BRAVEN throws himself over his father to push him to the ground. Lyndon, desperate, begins to scream, but his son manages to calm him down. He takes him to the garage and asks him to stay silent, secures all entrances, and quickly prepares a couple of improvised weapons. Using a bottle of alcohol, he manages to heat up a clamp until it is red hot, which he uses to attack one of the traffickers through the window. With a flaming axe, he surprises another and throws the bottle of alcohol to burn him alive. Meanwhile, Stephanie arrives at the mountain and sets out to search for her little girl, finding her at the right moment to save her. She attacks the trafficker with a bow and asks her daughter to go to the road without looking back. She takes out a knife and stabs the trafficker repeatedly. She leaves him alive and walks away, grabbing the bow. When she reaches the road, Charlot meets the sheriff and indicates the way to the cabin. After neutralizing the penultimate soldier of the trafficker, BRAVEN leaves the cabin, seeing that Casson has his father. Yu asks him to calm down. He will hand over the merchandise and he will be able to leave without them intervening. Casson insults him and stabs his father in the abdomen. The police arrive and the trafficker takes cover in the cabin. In a heartbreaking scene, Lyndon ends up dying in the arms of his son. At that moment, the trafficker whom Stephanie had spared appears and positions himself to shoot him, but luckily Stephanie stops him by shooting with a bow. Filled with rage over the death of his father, Yu attacks the trafficker with the axe. He asks his wife to find his daughter and returns determined to face Casson, who is storing the merchandise in a bag. Upon leaving through the garage, he runs into the sheriff and shoots him in the chest, then tries to flee through the forest to go unnoticed, but BRAVEN detects him in time. Before going to look for him, he equips himself with a couple of tools to face the trafficker. By cutting his way to get into the forest, he sets a snare with the intention of distracting him. His plan works perfectly and he manages to ram him, making him lose the weapon in the snow. He steals the merchandise, so he will chase him and prepares a bear trap tied to a log. He faces him with a dagger, but the trafficker reacts quickly and wounds him in the torso several times. When throwing him to the ground, he tells him that he is an impressive adversary. He had never faced someone like him. BRAVEN makes a sudden turn, intending to lead him to the trap, but his opponent manages to break free. He falls to the ground again, and Casson finds the trap. He mocks his failure and tells him that after killing him, he will look for his wife and daughter. He will kill them the same way he killed his father. In one last strategy, Yu decides to step on the trap to ram him without being able to react. The trafficker ends up falling off the cliff, facing an imminent death. Climbing up the cliff and freeing himself from the trap, his family along with the police arrive at the scene, with our protagonist embracing his family. We bring the movie to an end.